Welcome back to another discussion video. Today I am here with a man named Friar Matthew, owner of TCC, the largest Catholic church on Roblox. Today we're going to be talking about traditional marriage. Would you like to introduce yourself real quick, the way you want to?
Yeah, well, obviously, instead of Friar Matthew, you could have just said Matthew. It's fine.
Matthew.
But yeah, I wouldn't call it a Catholic church. There's a Catholic community on Roblox. And I've been running that since 2017. Obviously, it was Protestant at first, but converted to Catholicism in 2021.
2020.
Yeah, 2021.
Okay.
And our goal now is to obviously teach and preach the fullness of the truth. So.
Yes. Well, that's not what we're talking about today, though. Today we're going to be talking about traditional marriage.
Which is a part of the fullness of the church. Truth.
Yes. True. My first question is, though, many people cannot seem to answer it. What is a woman?
Well, a woman has XX chromosomes. End of story.
There you have it. And can a man be a woman?
No.
And why?
Because it is not physically possible. You can't change your chromosomes. Sorry. You could act like one, right? You can be an actor, but you can't physically change your sex. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. There's no filter here. What is your opinion on Pride Month?
Pride Month does not exist, in my opinion. I believe that month has been dawned as the month of the Sacred Heart of Jesus since the 1800s. So we're going to keep it that way. So my opinion doesn't exist.
And what's your what is your opinion on Pride? What do you think of Pride when you hear that word?
Well, it comes in many forms, right? So, well, obviously their whole thing is they're proud to be whatever they are, whatever their identity is, or what they believe they are. So they're taking pride in that, which of course pride is the sin which Satan fell because of. So I would say pride is the first sin that you will have that'll expose a lot more sins that are deep within you. So I think it goes deeper than what is just face value of just being proud of being gay or proud of being trans, etc. It's literally the first sin. It's like a domino effect of sins that'll lead. It can go from pride to gluttony to lust and etc. It'll go down the line, which becomes problematic. So I think it's disgusting to celebrate and even call it Pride Month. It's arguably disgusting in my opinion.
I agree. What is your opinion on LGBTQ as a whole?
Well, the community aspect of it is pretty sad because as human beings, I believe personally that it's like the whole community itself kind of thrives on people's need to, I guess, fit in. And so they emotionally manipulate people into thinking they fit into something, and that being the LGBT community. People outside might support it and say, we don't really care, just, stay away from us. But then others who don't support it at all, and they kind of feel locked in that community. And for that reason, because they feel locked in, that's what they identify with. And that's what they're going to identify with. And those are the people they're going to seek. And same too with religion. So I will be fair. Same too with religion. But even then, sometimes religious individuals will fight and fend off for themselves because it is God of the universe that we believe in, and we uphold our values from. Their values come from their own ideas. So in my opinion, when they have to defend themselves, they're kind of backed in a corner, and they need to get this help from this huge community of people, which I don't really see the LGBT community as helpful. It's like the opposite of Alcohol Anonymous. You know, AA is supposed to help individuals break free from an alcohol addiction. The LGBT community isn't helping these individuals break free from their sin, but only celebrate that sin even more, which becomes a problem. Because the more they sit there and celebrate it, the more they sit and squander and say this is normal. It's not. It's detracted from humanity in general, like even in an atheist perspective. And most modern atheists won't say this, but this is true. If you're thinking evolution, how is your species supposed to survive if these individuals are homosexual? They can't. They cannot survive. It's the reproduction is not going to be a thing. So your species is going to be mentally ill and die off. That's what the LGBT community does. Now, I want to say this. I want to preface this. Each of these individuals are uniquely loved by God. We know this. Okay, and I'm not saying every single one of them are mentally ill. No, that's not what I'm stating. But what I am saying is each of these individuals have problems, and they have their own desires, these distorted desires that need to be stopped. Everybody has distorted desires, though. Desires that are not of God. And we need to fix these things. And it's either they accept God and they fight these things off, like some individuals who were a part of the LGBT community have done, or they just continue down that life of depression and emotional support from their peers who are also depressed and constantly seek each other for attention and getting out of this eternal hole of, I guess, that depression. Anyway.
No. Why do you think the LGBT community have become such a huge deal in our nation today?
Well, I think it's because there's a bigger agenda at hand. If we think, now, I'm not going to be nationalist here, but if we're thinking about how war works, you can't fight a nation that is the greatest nation in the world by military power if they have a strong military. Well, I personally think they're playing the waiting game, and they're doing a good job. Look, people on the outside of the United States have the virtue of patience, okay? People within don't. So people within just don't see this. Like, oh, why would they wait that long? Well, because if you want to take a nation out that is stronger than you, you have to take it out from within. So that means these communities, for example, that people will run to, you got to play them psychologically, make people think they're crazy, give them these crazy drugs, this medicine that's only going to make them worse over time. You want to take a country out from within, that's the way to do it. And I think that's been going on for at least the past 3 or 4 decades, and it's been successful, arguably, and it's been pushed as normal in society by one political party, which has been gaining traction because, you know, that's what the internet is now filled with, this cesspool of this disgusting nonsense that's pushed. I mean, it's much more than the LGBT community. It's also things we won't mention, because this is probably going on YouTube, so I'm assuming we're going to keep this a little bit PG rated here, but yeah, I think there's a bigger agenda than, you know, they themselves just came out that way when in reality it was less so. And they can say, oh, well, there were so many people that were doing it back then and it was just covered up. Well, it wasn't normal back then, and the reason it wasn't normal is because in a society with the LGBT community, the society cannot thrive.
It's
It
weak.
cannot.
Yeah.
So that's just my opinion.
Who do you think is leading this up? Who do you think wants to destroy America? Who's responsible for that?
We will probably not state that here. We will probably not state that here. For the sole reason that you want to keep your channel. So anyway, I think there's multiple people at play, but ultimately,
you can say it if you want to.
ultimately, I will say this one thing. I think it is, no matter how we spin it, it's always going to be Satan in general, not tearing down directly America, but just humanity in general, making humans think they are something that opposes what God created them to be. And so because of that, it takes them out of the order from which God created them. Most individuals will say, well, God created me perfectly. And so I'm this, I'm whatever their many genders are, you know. And so God created me this way, and God created me in his image, and I am this. So thus God created me perfectly, and this is perfect. No. God created you either male or female. There's only two genders. Okay. And if you want to sit there and make a claim that there's more than two, we could argue back and forth about, you know, mental illness. Okay. But there will always be two genders. Always. You cannot change your gender. If you are assigned a male at birth, you're assigned a male. If you're assigned a female at birth, you're assigned female. That's how God created you. To say God created you otherwise is disordered. So that's that.
Yeah. So with the LGBTQ, do you think that it's being tremendously pushed in the school system for a greater reason?
Yes, the public school systems. I mean, I remember when I was in public school, it wasn't really much of a thing until, like, I want to say my junior year is kind of when we started seeing it more often.
That was during Obama's term as president,
yeah,
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as, like, completely popular. It was just gaining that traction. And
yeah.
people can argue that this has been around since the 70s and way before that and whatever. We make that argument, it doesn't matter, but it just hasn't gained acceptance and the attraction until more recently, which that's where it all basically started, was more recently. And people start identifying because they want to fit in. And so they see these communities where people are, and this is the problem though, because kids, they're young and their minds are just, they're easily influenced. Their minds are just forming. So people will argue that, oh, you shouldn't push religion on people, but pushing this ideology of you can be many different genders is somehow ordered in society. No, I'd argue that's disordered. And if you want to teach them that stuff, wait till they're 18. Wait till they're an adult. Okay?
Exactly.
If you want to teach them that.
You can't get a tattoo until you're 18, but you can chop off your you-know-whats when you're a minor. Like, that doesn't make any sense. That's where we've come.
And I believe those individuals in certain states to be fair, they do need parents' permission. I know in California they don't, but in other states they do. But yes, you're right, and they can go ahead and do that, and it's very sad. But again, we live in a fallen world. We kind of expect this stuff. So arguably, I think what needs to be done on this is that, I mean, look, I'm not really much of a politics guy, but I think Trump defunding the public school system is perfect, because look, the public school system itself was arguably part of the problem in our society. And I want to get into that because, I mean, let's go back to the feminist movement back in the 1920s. Why do you think that started? CEOs wanted more money. They knew women can do work for them as well. And this is more, since we're talking about the traditional family. The traditional family was the man goes out and works, the woman stays home and provides for the family. Sorry, backwards, not provides, but I guess provides in the sense that she's taking care of the children. She's teaching the children as well, morals, values, that you want your children to be taught at home. That is what the government was seeking to take away by pushing this feminist movement. Most people believe it was started by a woman. It was not started by women. It was started by CEOs. Now, we could argue that, Google says this. Yeah. Look deeper. Who funded it? Why did they fund it? You can say they supported women. Why did they support women? Because they saw more women, more production, more money. Okay, that's what I'll say. Because I don't want to go too deep, but that's where we are today. Why do you think so many people are so depressed nowadays? That people's children get taken away from them constantly because of many different things, and people live in divorced and broken homes, and they grow up with no hope. And this is the society that Satan wants. Yeah. Because who's going to find God in a world where they see no hope? However, I believe that's leading so many people more recently to the church and to Christ in general. So, I mean, his plan failed. But anyway, we'll go on to the next question.
Well, I think how you kill a nation is when you go after the family, the traditional family.
Yeah,
that's how you
absolutely.
start killing from within. And they go after your children because they know they're vulnerable and that they'll listen to them. So they brainwash your kids without you knowing it, which is honestly sad. Now, I do want to get to traditional marriage now. What is your stand on marriage?
My stand on marriage, well, obviously it's between one man and one woman, as Jesus himself says. I also believe that what God binds together, man cannot tear apart. So divorce is a big no-no. And like, you could always work it out. Some people say, well, what about domestic abuse cases? What about, look, this is why you choose your spouse wisely. And this is also why this world needs to start learning forgiveness as well. If someone is truly sorry and they do seek change, then maybe there is change. But if you married a narcissist, I feel bad for you. But at the same time, it's like, look, you make the decision in this life. It's between you and God. It's not between me and you, or my opinion and yours, right? So I guess they can make that argument for us, like, oh, well, just let the homosexuals and let the women who want to have abortions get abortions, let the homosexuals marry because you just said it, let them do whatever they want to do. Well, look, we can let them do whatever they want to do, but the world's going to get more deprived of God, and that's a problem. And so our goal is to show people God in this world and get them out of that before they go down that bad rabbit hole. So obviously, again, marriage between one man, one woman. I branched off so far. And there's really no in between. There's nothing else. Like, I don't know how, like, this is how it's always worked. Okay. That's how society works. One man, one woman. All right. We're also not doing the Joseph Smith or the Prophet Muhammad's version of marriage. One man and 50 different women. Okay. Probably gonna get killed for saying that. So anyway, but seriously, like, it's one man, one woman, because that's what God ordains for us, is that traditional marriage, that it's supposed to be two become one, correct? And so for us to just, pervert this in society today, I think it's embarrassing. I think it's terrible what we've done with this world, to the point where hookup culture took place, but that's because of the sexual revolution. It's like the sexual revolution goes on, and it evolves into this other disgusting nonsense, and now we're in the hookup culture era where people are just not finding love, and they're losing trust in each other, to the point where people are just staying single now because they don't trust anybody, which is fair. It's fair, but at the same time, this is what also prevents us from repopulating. And look, this is going to sound off the rails here, but if you look at Muslim populations, they keep repopulating. Okay, they are against abortion as well. They won't tell you that. And this is the reason why they vote Democrat, because they want our people to keep killing our own people through abortion. Because the more we do that, the more we kill off our own people, the more Muslims there are, because they repopulate like rabbits. They're doing a good job. So I think the lesson here is we need to get people back on track. One man, one woman, and hopefully the Lord blesses you with multiple kids, right? Not just one, not just two, not just three, four. Okay, four and more.
4 or more.
Okay,
Yeah,
four
that's
or
right,
more.
brother.
I mean, 3 is good, but you want 4 or more. You want that population to, get back and running. And I know it sounds absolutely absurd, but that's what's going on right in front of our faces. And the more we ignore it, it's just going to become a problem in the future. So, yeah.
Yeah. What should a traditional family look like? What should it be like?
Well, we just mentioned that right at the end there. So 1 man, 1 woman, maybe 4 kids. And honestly, the one thing I want to mention here is I respect the Amish for how they live.
Oh yes.
No technology, right? It is kind of cultish in the fact that they keep people within their whole community and don't talk to anybody else. They're of the devil, but it's not okay. Technology is not of the devil for them. They just believe it can disconnect you from your family, your friends.
And they're right. Yeah.
They're 100% right. And so I agree with the Amish on that. And I wish Catholics and even Protestants or Orthodox would host communities like that, where we would just work hard, provide, have families in a community together, fending for each other, not having to rely on the government's help at all. Okay, the world would be a better place if we could just gang up and do that. They don't want us to do that, because if we do that, we don't rely on those big businesses that control the United States. So the family unit should be like that, working together, not arguing with each other and dividing like we see in today's society, where all this depression comes in because families just constantly argue and bicker over stupid things. Pride takes over, as we were just mentioning pride earlier, because again, pride takes many forms. Pride takes over, and you don't want to admit you're wrong in certain things, and it becomes a problem. So,
how has the traditional family been being? How do I word this? How has it been destroyed almost? Arguably with the push of this, what we've just been talking about this whole time, the push of this agenda, and also the internet in general, telling you that kids are just terrible. I mean, the subliminal messages in TV shows that we have, and dating and everything. They make dating look like it's a horrible thing. They push that men are stupid and that men are. It's like everything is against relationships. And if you don't see that in the media, then you're going to be brainwashed. You're going to think that all this stuff is bad, when in reality, it's all good. And so if we want to fix the traditional marriage, the traditional relationships, then we need to start by
teaching our own kids and teaching, teaching friends, even like the word of mouth is the best way to get this message across. Because look, this will probably reach maybe 4 or 5 people, right? Maybe it'll reach
Maybe
more.
30.
Who knows? Lord willing, right? But I see this as an issue that's constantly going on that we need to address. We need to fix this. And the only way to fix this is if we all come together and work together on this, because people have problems. We can discuss these problems. We can talk these problems out. Maybe you can find better ways to find a better partner. Maybe look for red flags early on, instead of getting into a relationship and thinking you love that person right away. This is why marriage isn't just a one and done thing. Like, I think even with Christians nowadays, they marry, and they marry after like a year, sometimes few months of seeing this other individual. And that's a problem. You don't want to rush marriage. It could take years because you got to get to know this individual. That's the problem with marriages that are rushed. You don't truly know this individual until you truly know him.
Yeah, be their friend for a while. Pray about it for a very while. Then hang out, go on dates, get to know each other even more.
Yeah.
And then jump into that. I agree. I think what's killed the family is the fact that the father and the mother feel like they both have to work, so they're both away. 40 hours is no longer enough to provide for your family, apparently. I mean, you just will be very broke, but you can do it. It's doable.
Right.
But we see these families, these kids who are out on drugs, other stuff, because they don't have a father figure and they don't have a teaching in the home. They're being taught by the government. They're being taught in schools. They rarely see their parents.
Right.
I think that's a big thing. And also technology, as you said.
Yeah, technology itself, because they're also being taught by individuals online, which also becomes a problem, because what are they watching? What are they viewing? And this is why parents, more recently, I will say, have been cracking down on what their children have been watching, but it's not as much, and it is problematic, especially with creeps on the internet as well. You want to protect your kids, not only from creeps on the internet, but also from the garbage that's put out there that'll fill their mind with nonsense that'll ruin future generations.
Yeah. I agree. So how do we fix the mess that we have entered in this country?
I think you kind of touched on that, but
yeah.
I think it's just as simple as, starting with your kids, talking to your kids about this, and teaching our children the proper values of humanity and not this nonsense that's been spread. And look, a lot of people are more so nowadays of becoming like neo-Nazis online, talking about how this stuff, this ideology was burned by the funny mustache man, is what we'll say, right? Back in the 40s. Why? Because this ideology was crippling. It would ruin an empire. And so you think about that, where are we now? I mean, we are currently being crippled and we just don't see it. But everyone wants to say it's normal and everyone wants to throw the term "you're a conspiracy theorist" around. Fine, whatever, call me a conspiracy theorist. I truly believe that we are just being told this nonsense so that our future generations become weaker and we are easily controlled. You can control the weak. You cannot control the strong.
Exactly.
So to fix this, spreading messages out like this, word of mouth. I'm not saying, look, I want to preface this as well, because look, in the beginning of the video, it seemed like I was just bashing the LGBT. I want to preface, and I should have prefaced this early on in the video, but I didn't. Now we're here, maybe towards the end, who knows? But I do not think each individual is doomed where they are at this point. There is hope, obviously, to turn to Christ at any moment in their life. But I also think that you have to want to. It's not something that, oh well, I'll just repent of my sins and call it a day, and that's that. Like no. There's a change of heart. There's the individuals, for example, that are that I know who have turned from that lifestyle. They do have temptation. Temptation is very real. And I'm not saying that you could just switch to being straight. That's it. Boom. No, that never came out of my mouth. Again, that never came out of my mouth. However, you can fight temptation, just like a straight person who has to fight a porn addiction. A porn addiction is just as bad. Just as bad, because they have to fight that as well. That is also unnatural. A porn addiction is just as unnatural as having homosexual relations, is what I'll say. But it truly is, and it's really sad. And also sex before marriage, unnatural. So I think it's just something that each individual has to think on their own and meditate upon this. And if they truly don't know God, this is their moment. Like, this is that moment that they should take to constantly seek him. Because look, there's proof of God in this world. They just don't want to see it. And I know you're Protestant, but as a Catholic, I find it laughable when they say there's no proof. We have multiple miracles within the church, studied by science, and science says it's physically impossible for this to occur in this world. Yeah. And so if this is physically impossible, Satan and his demons cannot perform miracles. Only God can perform miracles. Then what do you say? You think it's just aliens or magic? That's just that's just an excuse to explain away God, because you don't want to be held accountable for every action that you've done. Regardless if you believe in him or not, you will be. And at the end of the day, this isn't a guilt trip. This is just something to think about. And look, I do also want to preface, it's not that you're going to be sent to hell. It's that you send yourself there. If you truly want to be separated from God for all of eternity, then go ahead and choose a lifestyle that abhors God. Choose a lifestyle that is disordered from God. If that's what you truly want, then you can choose to do that. I don't suggest it. I suggest following God so that you can have life eternal with him and not without him. Because this life is temporary. Eternity's a lot longer than this current life. So, yeah, it's just what I say.
Amen. Yeah. Well, thank you, Matthew, for doing this discussion video with me. I do hope this does get out to the public. Our traditional marriage is being attacked right in front of our faces, but it's not over. The battle is still being fought. We have not lost. There's still normal people out there who actually want to do marriage correctly, which I'm glad for. So we're not the only ones. There's plenty of other people out there. Look at the Amish. Look at the Mennonite. Look at strict families who have traditional religious morals. They have loads of kids.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to mention. The Amish and the Mennonites have a ton of kids. They know the issue. They know what's going on, and they themselves just they know what to do to fix their. And look, Mormons do too. I will admit the Mormons, though they're not Christian, they do too.
Though, yeah, with more than one woman, yes, they do.
Yep. Well, actually, no. I want to retract that. No, that is a different branch of the LDS. And we should respectfully call them the LDS because they don't want to be called Mormons anymore. But anyway, but they do have a lot of children with one woman. They outlawed, I believe they outlawed that back in like 1891 or 92. Can't remember.
In America,
polygamy. Yeah, in the United States.
Yeah.
So, I don't believe they uphold that anymore, but some do. There are, again, as I said, different branches of Mormonism out there that do. So, but yeah.
Well, even some Protestant denominations, I see many families with a lot of kids. The more strict Protestants, I should say. Not the worldly ones, the strict ones, who actually have traditional marriage. Yeah,
a lot of traditional Catholics and Orthodox as well will have traditional marriages, and they'll have multiple kids because they, again, like there are people that are waking up to this. They see this, and they also want what God wants for humanity. So, yeah, I guess that's all we got to touch on, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you again.
Yep, no problem.
Well, thank you for watching, everyone, and I hope you'll join us back for another discussion video with who knows who. God bless.
God bless.